could you explain how to understand the VIX? Okay, so the CBO is the Chicago Board of Exchange, and it's just one of many. Um, the VIX is basically an index, and I'll post a better explanation if you follow me on notes, because it's, I don't want to get too much into shorthand, and also I'm not really in the market right now, so I don't want people necessarily acting on what I say I'm not giving investment advice. I'm really more interested in just sort of taking a step back and looking at what's happening and just kind of commenting on it. And from there, you can sort of make your own decisions. But, what I try to do is be accurate and, and honest. Now, back to your question. So, we call the VIX the fear index. I mean, guys that are traders, and not just traders, but it's an indication of angst in the market, basically. As I said, I can give you a much longer explanation, but in a nutshell, that's kind of what it is. So the lower the VIX is in price, so yeah, so the VIX going up and being green means that people are really concerned about the market. So, and if you look, I think I put a chart up maybe a couple of hours ago. And if you look at that chart going all the way back to January, the VIX was really trading pretty low. We used to say when the VIX got under 10, that was when it's almost like it means zero fear in the market, which it's kind of counterintuitive. But and so when you see it right now, the last time I looked, it was in the 50s, which is just bonkers. Um, so I want to just, for people who don't know who I am or don't subscribe, let me just give you a little bit of background. So I started in finance in the early 80s as a mortgage-backed securities sales trader, salesman, whatever you want to call it. So I think 1983. So what that means, and I left the business as a trader in 2012. And then for a few years after that, I was a subject matter expert that focused on market structure in the capital markets, fintech, and that kind of stuff. And there are still white papers and things that I wrote, 10, 15 years ago, floating around out in the internet ether. So I was in mortgage-backed securities, and then I guess in 1994, I left this big firm that I was at in Arkansas, which is where I'm from, and started my own firm, which at the time, it was the first Black-owned investment firm in Arkansas ever. I left Arkansas about 5 years later, late 2000, and went to work in New York and spent the next 13 years there, um, mostly running trading operations at boutique firms, not the big Goldmans or anything like that, but, smaller firms. The It wasn't the last firm that I worked at, but I'm bringing this up because I think it kind of ties in to some of the stuff I might say. I spent about 5 years working at a Black-owned firm that, incidentally, was in a partnership with Cantor Fitzgerald, which is the firm that Howard Lutnick just left to become the Commerce Secretary. So um, our offices, when I was there, we had a floor in Midtown Manhattan in the same building where Cantor Fitzgerald was. Their trading floor was right above my trading floor. So I kind of knew these guys. I would not say that I was friends with Howard Lutnick, but certainly met him and had been around him. And over the last week, my boys that I talk to still, that were colleagues, guys that were working on the trading desk that I ran, we're like who the hell is this guy? He is talking in a way about stuff. First of all, it's like it's not even him. It's like it's totally a crazy person. Okay. So, some of his comments about tariffs, his comments the other day, he was on, I think maybe over the weekend, talking about, these jobs putting iPhones together with screws and so forth, that, they're going to bring all those jobs back to the United States. And we're like, we can't even get people to fill all the jobs we've got now. So who's going to do all that work, number one, and who's going to work that cheap? Because that's the reason those jobs aren't in the United States, is because this economy isn't structured for us to be working for $1 a day. Used to be, and less, but not now. So, so with all that said, that's kind of my background. Now, um, I'm what in my opinion is going on, and just keep in mind, I was around for the um, Black Monday in 1987. I was sitting on a trading desk, like, thought I was going to have a heart attack. um, I was working in New York during 9/11, which was kind of like a mini sort of crash market wise. um, if I remember correctly, I think the market closed for like a week. um, but it bounced right back. And then after that, the the internet bubble, I guess, sort of happened right around that same time frame. So I saw all of that. I saw the great financial crisis, um, which just was beyond anything that we had seen up to that point. I don't think anybody has ever seen anything like this. The difference is that all of those things that I was just talking about were the result of some anomaly in the market, with the housing bubble, the great financial crisis. It was brought on by structural stuff, you know, um, uh, these esoteric products that were kind of crazy. And, man, it was man made, but still, it wasn't like somebody did it with the intent to crash the market. The market crash was just the result of these things. Nobody's ever seen it where a president is going to sit up and say, well, sometimes, well, I think what he said was, sometimes you got to take your medicine. Wow. That's just unheard of. And so I've spent this morning almost like I would if I were still working on Wall Street, just gathering information, talking to people I know, and trying to draw some conclusions. And what the market is doing right now. And see, another difference is this isn't really like a panic. Like during the housing crisis, when things started to collapse, it was a panic. I mean, there was literally a run on Lehman. Like if you've ever seen It's a Wonderful Life, and there's that scene where everybody's running to get their money out of the bank. That was Lehman. That was everybody on Wall Street was trying to get their money out of Lehman Brothers. That's not what this is. This is really a logical reaction to everybody's, and by everybody, I mean market participants that have, for the last 2 years, been hearing Trump say all this stuff about, tariffs and 200% tariffs and all this kind of stuff. And some kind of way they convince themselves, oh, he just playing. He's not really going to do that. Somebody's going to stop him. No, nobody's stopping this guy. Look who's implementing this policy. The person implementing the policy, Peter Navarro, less than a year ago was sitting in prison. He's a felon. I mean, you basically got like a murderer's row of law breaking criminals, and they've got a hold of the country, you know, and I mean, honestly, I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm saying I would encourage everybody, please take a look at the last couple of things that I've written on my Substack. And a lot of what I'm saying is in there. Just maybe I'm trying to be a little more conversational. But what I'm saying is Peter Navarro, I believe it was Rachel Maddow last week, did something about this. And I think I'll what I normally do when I finish up something like this, I'll publish it. It's free to whoever wants to look at it. And I also post links to try to, reference various things that we're talking about. So um, this is a guy who wrote a book. Well, first of all, the way they even got connected, Trump and Navarro, was Jared Kushner just like almost looked him up in the phone book or something, you know, and that's who Trump's listening to, because he's validating what Trump believes with regard to these tariffs. And I'm telling you, folks, I can't even hardly articulate how bad this is. And I don't mean go get your money out of the bank. It's not that kind of a thing. It is just gross mismanagement, ignorance, hubris, all this stuff together. And the reason, okay, so I'm looking at something that someone just published or posted in the comments about the Insurrection Act, and so here's how I look at this. And I'm not sure this is what's being asked, but I get a lot of people, family members included. Oh, why do you think he's doing this? Do you think it's a grift? Do you think it's X, Y, Z? I don't think it's that complicated. I think, and I'm saying this because this is what they're saying. If you notice, we started this off and it was about fentanyl with Canada. And then it became, which by the way, Canada, we send more fentanyl to Canada than they send to us. So if anybody was going to, sanction somebody, it should have been the other way around. But then it became, well, we're being cheated by all these people. They're stealing from us and they're not fair. I mean, now keep in mind, with regard to Mexico and Canada, which is where this started, the USMCA was like NAFTA 2.0. That was Trump's deal. He put that together. So now he's saying it was a bad deal. It's the deal he made. So that just kind of, put that in your Rolodex, your mental Rolodex. Okay, so now we've gone from it was about fentanyl to now it's about everybody in the world is cheating us. Even little islands with nothing on them but penguins, evidently. And so now, and I won't even get into like the calculations that they came up with, to even get to these numbers, which are just wrong. Now he's saying that it's, value added tax, which is VAT. That's what they're referring to when you hear that. It's, you hear Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, that guy. Watch that guy, because he's supposed to be the person with some sense. He came out of Wall Street when I didn't know anything about him, but people that I talked to thought he was a pretty credible guy. And the last thing that I wrote, I think I published yesterday. There's an exchange between him and Bloomberg, a reporter from Bloomberg, and he just straight up says, we're going to raise a whole lot of money from doing these tariffs, and The way what they're doing right now is they're trying to figure out ways to come up with pay fors to offset this gigantic, almost $5 trillion tax cut that they're trying to push through. They're trying to make it permanent. Now, it exists right now. And everybody, just to be fair, everybody got a little bit of a tax break, but as with most of the Republican policies, it's really skewed to the, upper 5% and even more so to the upper 1%. So it expires, I'd have to check. I want to say maybe in May. So what they want to do is extend it for, another 10 years. You guys can hear my cat, well, one of my three cats. What happens is my wife on the other side of the house has gone outside. He is totally convinced that one day he's going to get to go outside. He's not. So he just, he can't accept it. Um, anyway, so I'm kind of skipping around, but there's so much going on. And I think just to kind of level set and get back to the the big picture is that what's happening in the market right now is the market has figured out that these people do not know what they're doing. And the market was not remotely prepared for tariffs rather that are this big. And by the way, I think just before I jumped on, and maybe somebody can confirm it, I think that we just threatened China with another increase in tariffs if they don't back off of their retaliation. So it's like I hit you, you hit me back, and I'm threatening to hit you back if you don't take it back and say you're sorry for hitting me. That's where we're at right now. So, um, Peter Navarro is the person who apparently has Trump's ear, and Trump is listening to him. And just notice Elon Musk is insulting this guy on Twitter or X or whatever it is. He's like he and Navarro are going at each other, and Navarro's like, what else is he going to say? He's a car guy, and then Navarro points, this is this morning on CNBC. He says, you know, of course, this is what Elon Musk is going to say. He's going to say this is a bad deal because he's not in the car manufacturing business. He's in the car assembling business. And so what Elon Musk does, according to Navarro, is basically like Legos, putting these cars together and all the guts, which is true. Engines are from, one place, various parts of the car, but that's just the nature of the automobile industry right now. It's been like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with that whole dynamic of Elon Musk and Peter Navarro. But as it is right now, Musk is losing. And not for nothing, this morning, um, an analyst very bullish on Tesla basically downgraded his projections of where the price of Tesla was going to be down the line by like 40 something percent. So a lot going on. One thing I think that's really important that unless you're just kind of a nerd like me that stays on this stuff is Kayla, it was bound to happen. She says Trump is moving on from Musk. I think Musk may be the only person surprised because if you ever, I mean, I don't know anybody who has been associated with Trump and come out on the other end better off. Not even his own kids. I mean, you know, um, I think the thing with Elon Musk, man, he's done a lot of damage, and I'm hopeful that it's not too late to repair some of that stuff. Um, anyway, I mean, I think if there's some questions or some things that I'm just sort of skipping over, or you want to hear more about, let me know. I'll try to keep up here. Um, but I was saying there's one thing that I think hopefully you'll hear about it. But Larry Fink is the president or CEO rather of BlackRock. BlackRock has got to be the biggest private equity fund in the world, I guess. Trillions of dollars under management. So I was on the phone with a guy that is now the CEO of a, I guess you would call it a biotech company. They're not public yet, trying to get there. But he and I talk literally every day. He used to be a what we call a desk analyst for me when I was in New York. And what a desk analyst is, for folks who don't know, he came out of one of the bigger firms, and after the housing crisis, tons of guys got laid off. So it was an opportunity for me to hire people that I normally would never have been able to hire. Um, I'm sorry, hang on a second. Okay, I'm going to stop right here because this is a good question. So Michelle asked if tariffs were reversed tomorrow, how soon or in what manner would the markets recover? Um, Probably you would see a pretty significant bounce. I mean, like almost the reverse of what's going on now. The problem, though, is this. And to underscore your point, something happened today, Michelle, that is that lets you know why I said what I just said. I was on the phone with this guy, and we're looking at the markets, and we're actually talking about Larry Fink. And all of a sudden, we went from being down, I don't know, 600 or 700 points, and boom, the next thing you know, we're up 200, 300, 400, 800 points. We're up. And then the next thing you know, we're headed back down. And before you know it, within this is all within a span of, I don't know, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. We're down 1,000 points again. You know why? Because Kevin Hassett, who is, I guess, um, I forget his exact title, but he's like an economic advisor for Trump. Um, he was on, I think, on Fox News, and someone asked him a question about, because um, someone asked him, whoever was interviewing him, asked him if Trump would consider pausing the tariffs because Ackman, hedge fund guy, big Trump supporter, actually posted something about him. I don't know, last night or this morning. He's been trying to push Trump to just give us a break, man. Just pause, let folks collect themselves. And so CNBC heard what was said on Fox and reported that Trump was going to pause. I think Kevin Hassett's answer to the question was like something like, I think he's gonna, maybe he'll consider it. It was something really vague. Thank you, Elise. It was really something vague. And so CNBC jumps on it, says that Trump's getting ready to pause on all the tariffs except China. Reuters picks it up and puts it out there, writes a story about it. Well, guess what? None of it was true. But back to the earlier question, the market is just looking for something to hang its hat on because we haven't had anything like this. You got to keep in mind, we haven't had anything like this since Trump got on the helicopter and left Washington back in 2020. And so the markets are just wanting something in the way of certainty. However, the fact that it immediately fell back to where it is now tells you, I think even if Trump came out today and said, you know what, y'all, never mind, it's too late because the market is just totally spooked. They don't know. CEOs do not know what to spend money on. Who's going to hire right now? You don't even know what to pay people. You got companies you've got US companies now that import from China, which, by the way, folks, Christmas is around the corner. Guess what? 80% of our toys come are made in China. Okay. I'm going to date myself with this from like Trading Places. A lot of folks ain't going to be buying the GI Joe with the Kung Fu grip this year. The old people know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, it's a mess. So even if Trump comes out today and just backs off everything, then people are going to be like, well, how can we trust this guy if he will just crash the entire financial system and then come back and say, I changed my mind? Who's This has damaged America's credibility. I'm not going to say it's irreparable because, Germany came back from Hitler. So I guess anything's possible. But man, in the near term, who the heck can trust us? And keep in mind, this comes behind what, just 2 weeks ago, Signalgate. So where do people, how, in what fashion is America trustworthy? National security? Not really. We used to be, the cavalry when some other country like Brazil or, whoever devalued their currency and, the market starts collapsing. We were the place where people would run to. Who's going to do that now? So so I don't know. I hope I'm answering your question, but that's just kind of how I think about it. Now back to Larry Fink. He was just at the um, New York Economic Club. Some of you might recall during the election that time when Trump started talking about tariffs were going to pay for like salaries for teachers or something, just something really crazy. That's where he was. Larry Fink was being interviewed by a reporter from Bloomberg, and I I was shocked. I mean, I guess I kind of thought this, but for him to just say it was kind of I thought noteworthy. Um, he said all the CEOs I'm talking to, the guy asked him if he thought that we would end up in a recession. Pardon me, by this summer, and he said all the CEOs I talked to think we're already in a recession. I was like, whoa, okay. I mean, I guess, but for him to say that is pretty, I mean, and he didn't even flinch. He just kind of said, he said, look, the economy is deteriorating every day. I mean, this guy talks to the Fed. I mean, this guy knows what's up. I'm not saying the Fed is, giving him inside information. I'm simply saying that he probably has as good of a handle on what's up as anybody on the planet. And yeah, you know, and I would almost even say, like Jamie Dimon, he's looking real smart right now, isn't he? Remember, this guy told us what, like in January, y'all need to get over it. These tariffs are going to be good for national security. Well, I don't know what he's saying now, but our national security stuff is gone to hell in a handbasket. We got, Laura Luma out here. I guess she's basically HR for for the national security apparatus, getting folks fired and stuff. And we thought Tulsi Gabbard was who we had to worry about, and now you look up and this girl is calling the shots, or woman. so so Jamie Dimon to me has lost a lot of credibility. Um, anyway, I mean, that's just kind of how I'm looking at it from here. I think just to really, sort of my thesis, and I don't think it's secret information, all of this is being done. And what you have to keep in mind is Trump don't care. He does not care. This is a guy who went to play golf yesterday, knowing that we had four troops coming in, and he really didn't even, he just didn't give a damn. He's meeting with some Saudis and trying to get some money or whatever it is they're doing. I mean, who knows? So, do you really think he cares if your 401k goes down 10%? No. Christy, I have talked about moving abroad, but where I mean, at it, as things are now, I'm not really sure of a safe place. I mean, I guess I've thought about Italy. I've thought about um, Costa Rica or Costa Rica. I've thought about these other places, but dang, you know, oh, no tariffs on Russia. Uh, no tariffs were placed on Russia. No tariffs were placed on Belarus. No tariffs on Cuba. See, there's kind of a pattern, huh? Yeah, Dr. Lisa, I'm kind of with you. I mean, I got kids in college. I mean, and I'm not, it's nice to think about, but I'm not going to leave my son who's a freshman in college to fend for himself. He's not really interested in going to Italy with me. Now, my daughter, who's graduating, and she's an art student, so Italy sounds kind of good to her. But where are you going to go? So, I mean, because this is global, folks. We can't run from this. Um, so I'm of a mind to just stay put and try to get this guy out of here. As you know, I just think, and this is going to sound, I'm just going to say it, but my thinking is, my mother and father had to put up with way more than this, and their parents, my grandparents, had to put up with way more than this. I mean, basically, all these things, these rights that we're being infringed upon of ours that are being infringed upon, they didn't even have. So they figured out how to deal with it and how to fight back against it. So I feel like I got to at least try. And we've got a lot more tools than they had. So that's kind of where I am. Plus, I can't afford to move to Italy. I would like to, but I can't afford it. So I don't know. Maybe I could find one of those $1 houses they're giving away, but I'm scared of what neighborhood that might be in. I don't want to move next door to Don Corleone. so, yeah. I mean, before he was president, that was certainly something that I thought about, and we still talk about it. Don't get me wrong. But for right now, I'm just kind of interested in doing what I'm doing right here. And granted, I could do that. I could do that anywhere in the world, I suppose. But there's a certain amount. I'm going to be 67 in in a couple of weeks. At a certain point, you just kind of, this is my spot. So, unless I like impending, government stuff coming my way, I'm staying here. So, yeah, I got a great bus too. I mean, we've talked about it. How will we get the bus overseas? And we're just, it's a dream, but we'll see. Um, so I think that's kind of all I've got. Unless there's some questions, and I'll probably, I mean, based on just in terms of whatever happens, I'm just gonna do these little sort of pop up 30-minute discussions and just, try to be helpful. If folks have questions, try to, give my take, as they say. Um, Again, I would encourage you read. I published something yesterday that really goes through what I think the calculus is behind these tariffs. You have to keep in mind there's so what Republicans are trying to do, and I'll wrap up with this. They are trying to push through tax cuts through reconciliation, which they're there's some reasons, that it makes it easier to get stuff through without having to have a 60 vote, and it's really a lot of political gymnastics, right? But they can extend this tax cut through reconciliation. And the problem with the tax cut is the interest and just the dollars that we're talking about. It's almost $5 trillion. 5 trillion. So what they're trying to do is pay for it with tariffs. Okay? And Bissett has said it just as plain as day. That's what's up. Now, the going through reconciliation, because of the way this stuff is structured, when the CBO scores their reconciliation package, it's not going to show the money that's coming in to the government from the tariffs, which I think, like, this year alone will be like somewhere just short of 300 billion, 250 billion, something like that. So the way they're describing this is the money from the tariffs is going to offset the tax cut. So the tax cut doesn't just consist of extending the the JCJA. It's the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, right? They're also throwing in no taxes on tips, um, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security. And it sounds real good, right? Until you think about it. Number one, if you're making your living on tips, unless you're in New York, you're probably not even paying taxes. So a tax cut on tips doesn't even help most of the people who earn tips, because you're giving them something they don't even need. Okay. The tax cut on overtime, they're trying to get rid of overtime. Okay. So again, it's a red herring. It's 3 card Monty that these guys are playing. Now, here's the kicker. When you put all those different tax cuts together that I mentioned, unless there's an offset equivalent, you're talking about $9 trillion. That's the latest estimate I've seen. $9 trillion that has got to come from somewhere. So what they're saying is, well, we're going to pay for most of it. We're going to pay for the Tax Cut and Job Acts part of it. We're going to pay for that with the revenue from tariffs. Let's take a step back. Who's paying for the tariffs? Look in the mirror. It's you. So what is happening is these guys are enacting tariffs. Now, I will be fair. Okay, there are 3 ways the tariffs can be recognized. Either China would have to lower their prices or cover the tariff. There's some of these companies are telling China, we're not buying anything from you unless you cover the tariff. In that case, theoretically, the corporation would be covered on the tariff. Now, what China would have to do is maybe lower their prices to sort of allow for whatever the tariff amount is. The second thing, the corporation could just absorb the tariff and not pass it on to us, the buyer, and the retail customer. Well, I don't think they're going to do that. And then the third thing is probably what's going to happen, which is they'll just raise prices. I literally got a call. I have a couple of Hyundais I bought my daughter one. I have one. I got a call from a Hyundai dealer Friday when stuff really started to blow up, because these guys are scared to death. They don't even know exactly what the new cars that they receive are going to cost. And so what they're trying to do is make deals on all their inventory that they already have sitting on the lot. I wasn't even really thinking about buying a car, but dang, I mean, I feel like you better hurry up and get one because they're going to be. Oh, that reminds me, there was one more thing in that reconciliation package. They're also going to make the interest on car loans on cars made in America. You'll get a tax exemption, kind of like the mortgage exemption. So, which is that's something Reagan got rid of. I'm old enough to remember, like the first car loan I ever got, you could write off the interest, and they took that away back in, I don't know, I guess maybe 80. Oh, yeah, there was like an 1984 Tax Reform Act. I forget what it was called, but that was essentially it. And one of the things in that was, it was a tax cut, ran up the deficit, and they also got rid of the exemption on interest for car loans. So they're going to give us that back. But again, how much interest do you really pay on a car loan in a year? So you take whatever that number is and match it up against the fact that your car is going to be 10 grand more expensive if you buy a new one, at least, right? So anyway, that's kind of what these guys are up to. I'm sorry, I'm looking at some of these comments. I tell you what, folks, I'm running up on, I guess, what they would call in legacy media a hard break. I've got to get on to my next thing that's been assigned to me today. But hopefully, this has been helpful. And as I said, I'm going to try to do this more often. Certainly as long as there's just like all this stuff hitting the market. Um, as a reminder, if you're not a subscriber, please think about becoming one. If you're able and find this helpful, think about becoming a paid subscriber. And, it's 20% off till the end of the month. So, hopefully I've persuaded you that I kind of know what I'm talking about. And hopefully this has been helpful. And, thanks for showing up. I always, whenever I do one of these things, I wonder if is anybody listening. So, I appreciate you folks. I really do. And take care. And by the way, if you're not, follow me on Notes, because generally that's where, just sort of the fast paced stuff. That's where it ends up first. So, and feel free to hit me up on Notes too, if there's some questions about some of the stuff that I've talked about. Anyway, I'll see you on the other side. Take care. Stay safe.